Welcome to NEXTGames' Geas Fete series, this one covering the final Tier 3 NM in Escha Ru'Aun, Virava. In this video, I'll give an overview of the Virava battle strategy, and then give a battle example of the fight against Virava. We'll do all of this on the ninja job with the Black Mage subjob. Now this series will cover how to defeat all of the Escha NMs on your way to a Ionic weapon. Ninja can solo all but roughly 10 of these, and I will show you how to solo all but those 10, and then we'll finish the series with showing you strategies for beating the most challenging NMs, normally involving a summoner strategy. Now in this video, we conclude our Tier 3 NMs in Ru'Aun with Virava, who is the most challenging NM of all the T3s and arguably harder than even the Archangels and all the gods but Corinne. Now you need to do a number of things to make this a consistent win, but you can get away with only doing some of these things, so know that you don't need to do them all. I'll go over all the suggestions I have for this fight, and you can choose the methods you wish to use on your run. Now first, let's talk about the subjob. One of the keys to this fight is the ability to sleep and separate the 7 Rafflesia that are spawned. To do this, I recommend using the Black Mage subjob. Now the Red Mage subjob will also work, but you will lose access to Sleepga, which makes this fight much easier. Now second, understand that Virava has very high physical and magical evasion. Their gear set that you should use should also have very high accuracy, evasion, and magic evasion. I made a gear set specifically for this fight to reliably resist most of her nasty spells and charms. The set consists of all 5 pieces of the Malignant set, Ninja Nodowa plus 2, Date Shuriken, Telos Earring, Dedition Earring, Gear Ring, Chirich Ring plus 1, Salafi Belt, and the augment on our Andartia's mantle is Store TP plus 10. Use Eternian Dagger plus 1 augmented in your offhand, and I recommend the Fudo Masamune on Path B. Now this set gives you exactly the amount of resistance you need, paired with capped Subtle Blow, and an additional 25 Subtle Blow 2, so that Virava will be using very few of those nasty abilities. The amount of Store TP we have used also makes the double attack plus 50% on the Fudo even more powerful. I also stick to Blade 10 during this fight, since we can't light SC with Shun without our Hishi, and because from my experience, Dark Skill Chains do very poor damage on Virava. Now if you don't have a Masamune on Path B, another option that I've noticed does work is using a Hishi, using Shun to do light skill chains. Now Shun's not going to do very good damage against Virava, I've noticed, but the light skill chains make up for the lack of damage that Shun is doing. Next, make sure that you have a full set of temporary items. We will use many of them during this fight to increase our damage output and survivability, and buy a safety at the end. The main ones that you want to make sure that you have are the Braver's Drink, which will pop right before and gives you an attribute boost of 15, the Barbarian's Drink, which will pop right before and gives you an attack boost of 50, Soldier's Drink, which will pop right before and gives you increased damage done to the mob you're fighting, and a Monarch's Drink, which will pop right before and gives us regain. Now right after we've popped the NM and used all of our TP, use your Daedalus Wing, and then Blade 10, and then your Lucid Wing 1, and then Blade 10 again, and then Lucid Wings 2, and then a final Blade 10. What we're doing here is trying to get in as much damage as possible before feeding Virava enough TP to use Fron Fatale. Now we'll talk about Fron Fatale in a moment, but the other temporary items you want to make sure you have are Assassin's Drink to save this for midway through the fight to boost your magic accuracy, Charm Buffer to use at 25% hit points on Virava to make that last 25% less risky, Super Revitalizer. You want to use this if you need to reset the timer for Elemental Seal, Isekigen, or Meekage, and Re-Race, just in case you get charmed or doomed at 1 to 10%. This gives you at least a chance to pop back up and try to win before she regains health. Now let's get to the abilities that you're going to be seeing during this fight. Let's start with the first ability always used, which is Frond Fatale. This will charm you and summon 7 Rafflesia, 5 normal and 2 black. Now it is critical that you have the set we discussed earlier in this video equipped when this happens, or the fight's pretty much going to be over before it begins. Now they will spawn with hate on the person who spawned the NM, which obviously is going to be you. And then they must be immediately slept. They can be a challenge to deal with if left awake, and can be resummoned anytime if they happen to be killed, so there's really no sense in doing that. After they are sleeping, you want to pull Virava at least 20 feet away before you continue killing her. Now, if any of the normal Rafflesia or near her, then she will gain access to and quite frequently use an ability called Full Bloom, which will restore 10% of her hit points, level her up, and make it so that her next move is automatically Fran Fatale once again, starting this whole process over again. However, if one or both of the black Rafflesia are brought next to her and present when she uses the ability called Leeching Vines, it will absorb both of them as well as any other normal Rafflesia around and proc her with blue. This seems to make her evasion lower for a period of time. Now note, if she absorbed a normal Rafflesia as part of this Leeching Vines process, then the next attack she's going to use is once again Fran Fatale, so be ready for that because those Rafflesia are coming right back again, even if you still have some sleeping off on the side. Now this whole fight is centered around this mechanic. Know that it's not always going to go the same, as sometimes she just refuses to use Leeching Vines to proc blue. Other times, she will not use Full Bloom for long periods of time, even with normal Rafflesia all around her. So this means you want to plan for the worst case, but it's not quite as bad as it sounds, as you normally have a good amount of time to deal with this stuff before she absorbs him and levels up. Now, under 50% hit points, she will gain access to an ability called Beautiful Death, which is an AoE Charm and Doom ability. If you don't resist it, then your run is almost always over. She uses this ability more frequently under 25% hit points. So this is why I recommend popping a Charm buffer at 25% hit points, just in case she catches you in your weapon skill set or fast cat set when she uses this Beautiful Death ability. Now, other abilities you will see used during this fight are Atropine Spore, which is conal AoE damage with Sleep, Paralyze, and Silence Infliction. Night Stalker is a conal AoE damage ability that will reset your TP, and Dercinator, which is AoE damage with Amnesia, Blind, and Muddle. This one can be especially nasty if you don't resist it. Now, she also has access to several nasty spells, including Meteor, Comet, Impact, Breaka, Sloga, and Dispelga. Now, all of these abilities and spells make it so that your magic evasion is critical to this fight. If you can resist most of these things, then the fight will go smoothly. If you can't, then you will feel that you can't do any damage and that you're going to run out of time, which you more than likely will. Now, for Trust, I'm using my usual set of companions, Almia and Joachim, for marches, and in this fight, to help with my accuracy in the event that she happens to gain a few levels. Hopefully they'll throw an accuracy song or two on me once they notice I'm having some problems. Korumoru for haste, Monburo and Yoran Oran to keep me alive. And also note that ArcEV or other good magic evasion tanks can be helpful when learning the ins and outs of this fight, but when it actually comes to consistently winning it, I find them difficult to use, as I normally have to disengage and re-engage to get the tank to come to me after a Sleepka, and in that time it's not uncommon for a Trust or two to die in making it to me. Okay, let's go ahead and see what a battle example looks like. I've done enough talking. Now, I'm not going to put up notes during this fight because I've already explained everything there pretty much is to it, but note that during this particular example, even though I'm trying to get her to eat one of the black Rafflesia while using Leeching Vines, it just never works out. She never wants to use that ability, so I spend the entire fight trying to make it happen, and it doesn't. This represents kind of one of the worst cases that can happen, because once she does proc blue, the fight does get substantially easier. So just know that this example represents a little bit more on the challenging side of what you should expect once you get this strategy down. And that will be it for how to solo Virava. I definitely found that a challenge to figure out, but I think this strategy definitely works quite reliably now. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. In our next video, we'll move on to the Arc NMs. Stay safe and stay healthy.